had a really nice conversation today with Jake Ferguson.
Yes.
Cowboys tight end who has been really, really good over the last several weeks for the Cowboys. And his emergence really had me intrigued to have a conversation with him today at Cowboys Media Availability. And he has turned into one of the more dynamic weapons for this team. And the reason I wanted to talk to him because, you know, we've seen what this Cowboys pass offense has become, especially with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. But we know how much Dak Prescott loves his tight ends. You know, Dalton Schultz, playing, good football right now with the Houston Texans. But we thought coming into the season, could Jake Ferguson be that guy? And as of late, he has really turned into that guy. So had the conversation with him today. And let's go with cut number one. I asked him about, building his connection with Dak on and off the field and how that's come about.
Yeah, I think in terms of on-the-field stuff, whenever there's something that isn't quite clean or isn't perfect really in the route game or motion or landmark or really anything, we're talking about it. Something happens in practice, it's when it's not our time, when it's defense emphasis, I'm back there talking to him. I'm saying, hey, what do we need to do to fix this? What do I need to do better? What's going to make you more comfortable to make that throw? Or just talking through stuff. And then I think off the field, it's just being myself, he's the leader he is, and just kind of being in that follower role where, he says something, it's my job to, kind of back him up and be behind him and be there. And I think we're taking the right steps to where we need to go. Definitely some room, though, to grow.
I think one of the things I loved about that particular answer from him is that for a young guy, he gets the idea, look, man, I got to have my quarterbacks back no matter what. And he has been a guy throughout his career so far, his young career, who has taken the idea of being there for his quarterback on and off the field very seriously. And that has started to turn into some really nice production in terms of their communication on the field as well. And I think part of why that answer struck me too is that's been a theme for Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, and others. We want to see maybe a little bit more of that when it comes to, some of the other receivers. But at the same time, communication and what that means for how this offense has looked over the last several weeks now.
Yeah, and I was going to say, the ways in which Dak, and it feels like a reach. The idea is that you can almost see the off-field relationship on the field with Dak and some of his receivers. And obviously tight ends up being like a safety blanket for any quarterback, but the ways in which that CeeDee Lamb relationship is on the field feels like it's indicative of something that's off the field. And in the same way you're talking about with Jake Ferguson. Now, the tough part about it is, I wouldn't think that him and Michael Gallup are in any bad place, but that relationship on the field is a little strained right now. And maybe, just maybe, that can speak in some ways to how the Brandon Cooks situation is not popping off in exactly the way that some of us onlookers would have believed. But at the very least, without the stretch that I just tried to make, it is good that Jake Ferguson seems to have taken the onus on himself to try and make sure that everything possible that he can do to make himself more available for the quarterback and make it as smooth an opportunity for him to get the ball from the quarterback is nice. It's good to see him put in that effort because, again, the tight end is typically a spot that goes, a little bit more experience. It's at least with the Cowboys, typically a little bit more experience where you can get the ball to. And so it's nice to see a young buck like Jake Ferguson really, grab hold of that position the way that he has. And
to your point about Brandon Cooks and some of that conversation there, speaking with Calvin Watkins, Cooks said today, quote, I'm not frustrated, in terms of his production, trusting the offense, Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy. I'm sure that is something that more Cowboys fans want to see in terms of Brandon Cooks being utilized. As we continue my conversation with Jake Ferguson, cut number 3 here, I wanted to ask him this because we have seen over the last few games the production increase, the communication, the overall better play from him in connecting with Dak Prescott. So the question being, when did that light switch go off that you could make this offense what you want it to be?
I think it started in camp and then just kind of honed in even more and said, okay, after Arizona, I said, okay, I need to do more. There needs to be a better approach to this. There needs to be better, on my side of things, it just needs to be better. And just trying to add something to, the routine, add something to what I'm doing every week. So there's no question that we're not clean on everything and just trying not to be complacent.
And you think about that Arizona game, since that game, Dak Prescott and Jake Ferguson, 22 of 25, 258 yards and 2 touchdowns. Only 3 incompletions when Dak Prescott is targeting Jake Ferguson over the last several weeks here.
And all three of those came this past week, right?
This past weekend, yeah, against the Philadelphia Eagles. So a guy who had 7 catches for 91 yards and another touchdown. Again, just another indication that for him, he's maturing and growing within this offense. And you're hoping that as that continues to grow for him, he could be a top 5, top 10, top 5 tight end in this league, given what the Cowboys like to do with their tight ends. And Jake Ferguson clearly starting to take some of the onus in being at the forefront of what that means for that production for them.
Yeah, that's absolutely hope. I mean, especially when you hear the likes of Travis Kelce when he's working out in that Kelce camp, talk about him and say that he sees that similarity within himself. Now, is that something that Travis Kelce was just saying? Maybe, but like one thing that was very evident, even in the rookie season, is there's a little something here, and we've seen that continue to expound and grow. And it's good to see that the work on the other side of that has also come with it, because talent, work comes together, and hopefully you get something special.
Jake, which players do you look at and want to embody as far as your game is concerned?
I see a lot of guys. I used to watch a lot of George Kittle, Kelce, but I mean, it's tough watching those guys because they're on their second contract,
Sure.
So they can do certain things in their offense. They can do stuff. My line is drawn where I can't go run whatever route and go sit in the grass. So there is a sort of, hey, I want to be my own player. I want to do everything right. Whether it's the run game, I want to be the hardest, best blocker with the most physicality. And then in the pass game, I want to catch every ball that comes to me. I want to, create separation. I want to be that security blanket. And, I can take a lot of different things. But at the same time, I know what's right, and I know what fits our scheme and what Coach Wells wants me to do. So I'm really just trying to embody that and work towards that.
And really big credit to Linda Wells, the tight ends coach for the Dallas Cowboys, and the way that he has gotten these tight ends ready to play and getting Jake Ferguson to the point where, yes, there are some things that he is still growing and learning from a pass protection and a blocking standpoint in terms of the run game. But you could tell the commitment to the effort to get better each and every day and every practice and each and every week on the field, not just production in the passing game, but in every aspect of his game is there. And the last cut I want to play, because it speaks to some of that in terms of that pursuit of that greatness. What does that look like for him on a day-to-day basis? And he continues to pursue that greatness.
Yeah, it's the question: do you want to be good or do you want to be great? And I think Coach Wells does a great job of, hammering that in my head as well as everybody else in the room's head. He'll say, you know what, you're doing good, but you're not doing great. So there's always that little bit of extra you can do, and there's always something more that you can do to make that extra step towards greatness.
So there you go. I thought the conversation was extremely fascinating and really good perspective for a young guy who I think is starting to understand his place and his role within this offense, and more importantly, how he affects what the Cowboys want to do offensively, and not just through CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, but he becoming one of the real focal points of this offense. And I think this Sunday has a real chance to have a big game against a secondary that isn't all that good in the New York Football Giants, and continue to building what he has so far this year. Jake Ferguson becoming one of the real bright spots for this team offensively this year. And he's got a mindset of wanting to be not just good, but really be one of the best in the NFL. And that's all you can ask for from a young guy going into his second year and beyond. So Jake Ferguson, good conversation, man. He's one of the Cowboys' bright spots, but more importantly, I think for Cowboys fans, I think really getting a good idea of what kind of player he's going to be down the road. Of course, Cowboys take on the Giants on Sunday afternoon at 3:25 on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, with pregame beginning at 12:30 with Eric Chiafalo and Brian Broaddus live at AT&T Stadium.